Hello and welcome back. I'm Brian G, the EVOG, and you join me here in my garage with Mystique, our 2023 Fisker Ocean 1. It's been yet another crazy week plus riding the choppy waves of the Fisker Ocean. It's really the Fisker Inc. experience, obviously. This week I've got 5 things for you again. One of the things that we saw over the last week plus was Raj from EV365 won his arbitration against Fisker, which I'll come back to. Another thing that we saw was Fisker Austria declare insolvency, and Magna came out and said that there are no further plans to restart production of the Fisker Ocean. The third thing we saw was another 8K filing by Fisker. And yet again, we saw more layoffs and what seems like the end of service of roadside assistance and potentially even over-the-air software updates for us as Fisker owners. It really feels now like reality is setting in for Fisker owners regarding, the situation that we're in with Fisker failing as a company. I'm going to start tonight with the Fisker Austria insolvency, which to me seems like a Chapter 11 filing. But there are a few things that I found interesting regarding that filing. The first one is that it doesn't seem to impact Fisker Inc. or any of the other subsidiaries in the Fisker umbrella. It's a separate entity, and this filing relates solely to the Fisker Austria entity. The second thing is they seem to be making arrangements to pay their creditors at 30% of the debt, 30 cents on the dollar or euro, depending on how you look at that. But I'm not sure how they can or will generate the income or revenue to make even that 30% payment. The third thing that I find interesting about that filing is that Fisker seems to have transferred their $1 billion plus debt to Fisker Austria. That may make Fisker Inc., that is, a more attractive buyout prospect, given that those debts totaling $1 billion plus aren't on the Fisker Inc. books, if those have indeed been transferred to Fisker Austria. So that is certainly intriguing in terms of what was noted in the Fisker Austria filing. This assumes that obviously the note holder is satisfied with any sort of acquisition offer. We're still waiting to see if that unlikely buyout or strategic partnership is something that may happen. Regarding the latest 8K, it just seems to be an extension of the forbearance for the note holder to recover proceeds from Fisker Ocean sales and perhaps for due diligence by potential Fisker suitors in a potential buyout. Dealers seem to be having success moving those heavily discounted Fisker Oceans, despite the fact that they're not offering service, apparently, for any of the Fisker vehicles. So that's certainly a good thing if you're the note holder in terms of recouping some of your investment from the sale of those heavily discounted inventory vehicles. So We'll see if that unlikely lifeline that Fisker is looking for and needs is actually going to be extended. Now, the other thing of note over the course of the last week plus is, from what I can tell, roadside assistance and service have either completely stopped or is simply limited to serious safety issues or completely dead vehicles, if that. So our fears as owners are really starting to come to fruition. And I guess we'll have to wait and see if we actually receive any additional over-the-air updates, given that Fisker seems to have shed itself of pretty much all their employees with very few exceptions. I believe the number of employees now is less than 100. I don't know how many of those are actually working on software development for the Ocean. And we also saw that Magna indicated that they're not restarting production. They've laid off their staff that was working on the Fisker project. So I'm not sure who would be developing the over-the-air software. Now, I hope that I'm wrong about this, and I know this is not what owners want to hear, but this is what I see as our reality as I sit here today. Now, it is great to see that Rich Rebuilds, this was another interesting video that I caught over the course of the last week plus. He seems to be relatively close to purchasing a Fisker Ocean so that he can reverse engineer it and be able to provide some level of service. So with Rich Rebuilds, the Fisker King, and other similar entrepreneurs, there may be an opportunity for those Fisker owners that are in proximity to those shops to get some level of service moving forward. And it may be our only hope, unless Fisker gets some sort of lifeline, some sort of buyout, some sort of investment, which, as I said earlier, seems relatively unlikely at this point. The last thing I'll touch on here is what I felt was one of the most uplifting videos that I saw over the course of the last week plus. And that was from EV365. Raj, like me, owns a Fisker Ocean 1 as well as a Rivian R1T. I'll leave a link to the video I'm specifically referring to here. His Fisker Ocean 1, unfortunately, is in an undrivable state in his garage. He's had issues with the vehicle that have been well documented since delivery. And Raj was able to, per the Fisker purchase contract, go to arbitration against Fisker. And he did so without legal representation and still was able to win his arbitration against the company. And the arbiter awarded him a buyback of his vehicle by Fisker. So as happy as I am for Raj, I just don't know that he'll be able to get that check from Fisker to actually buy his vehicle back. I certainly will be watching and looking to see what the latest update is on that. But I'm skeptical as to whether or not he'll actually see that payment despite the arbiter's ruling. Now, Raj shared the steps that he went through for the arbitration, and that's another reason I'm linking his video in the description of this one, because he spells it out so that perhaps others may be able to follow in his footsteps. A friend of mine recently asked me what was my feeling, how did I feel once I saw that video? Put that into one word was the question. And the feeling that I had was of envy. I'm not super proud of that, but if I'm being brutally honest, that's exactly how I felt. I was envious of Raj's situation, and it really got me to thinking about my situation. And obviously, I'm in the same boat as many other Fisker Ocean owners. And as I thought about that, I reflected on the fact that this is one of the biggest mistakes that I've made, right? And it's an expensive one. Knowing what I know now, I would not recommend that anyone buy a Fisker Ocean, even at a 50% discount, essentially is what they're selling for now, just because of the uncertainty with over-the-air software updates, as well as service, warranty work, customer support, and so on. Like many Fisker Ocean owners, we fell in love with the design, the look of this vehicle. We fell in love with the story. We fell in love with the fundamentals of this vehicle. Buying a vehicle is very much an emotional decision for many of us. It is not a rational decision. And so emotionally, there was a connection to this vehicle. That's why we made that decision. But Fisker clearly failed us. And now we seem to be stuck with an incomplete, heavily depreciated vehicle for which we don't know if we're going to get, as I mentioned earlier, software updates, service, parts, or any sort of customer support other than third parties, as I referenced earlier with shops like Rich Rebuilds, the Fisker King, and others like that around the country, assuming you're in proximity to one of those. Now, maybe the Fisker Ocean will become a collector's item down the road, and that will lead to some level of increased value. At this point, it's worth more to me than anyone would be willing to pay me for it. So the only real options I see are keeping it or potentially trading it in. Now, if I were to trade it in, and this is something I've been thinking about since watching Raj's video a little over a week ago, is what else is comparable to the Fisker Ocean? As I mentioned earlier, where else can we find this type of a package in terms of eye-catching, emotional design, 360-mile range, fun driving performance, an opening panoramic sunroof that gives the vehicle the feel of a convertible, and a cutting-edge infotainment system is the other thing that I really like about the Fisker Ocean. If you guys are interested in seeing some of the options I'm thinking about, comment below. Let me know if you'd like me to make a video about some of the Fisker Ocean comparable options that we might consider if we're looking to trade in or move off of this vehicle and into something else here in the relatively near term. And I'll put that video together. Having said all of that, for now, I'm continuing to enjoy the Fisker Ocean. Given the weather, as we get deeper into spring and into summer, what I'm calling Cape Cod mode, which is it's in right now with all of the windows and the roof open, adds to the enjoyment of the vehicle. So I'm going to continue to enjoy it. Fortunately, and I wish there was some wood here I could knock on, our Fisker Ocean 1 is problem-free for the moment. Hopefully it continues to be that way for a while, and I wish the same for every Fisker Ocean owner out there so that you can at least enjoy the vehicle for as long as possible. We know that service needs are going to pop up at some point, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So listen, I really appreciate you joining me for this video. Please like, subscribe, share, comment below, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.